Hello, and welcome to Lister LD1 Restoration Part 17. And well, you see, from not a lot has changed apart from this time I've got the rocker box on. Everything's alright under there. Cleaned it all up. And well, that's actually just about it. Actually, all I've done, we are actually very close now to doing the well, we've only got like a few little jobs to do. Put the fuel tank on it, and what does it do? I think put the fuel tank on and adjust the decompressor, and that'll be it. And yeah, that's all there is really to do to this engine, is put the fuel tank on, adjust the decompressor, and put the flywheel on. So it's not actually a lot to do, but we aren't going to put the flywheel on until I'm ready to actually put the engine on the trolley. So I'll put the engine on the trolley and then I'll put the flywheel on, just because it makes it lighter, because that flow is actually quite heavy. So we don't want to increase the weight of the engine any more than we have to. But as you can see, there's the LD1 all there, looking really good, I must admit, not being bigging myself up, but I think it's looking really nice. And well, one of the things I want to do now is adjust the decompressor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the manual and I'm going to show you how to adjust the decompressor. Because when I bought this engine, well, I used to crank it over, it used to, like, the little lever used to twitch. I thought, shouldn't usually do that. Turns out the exhaust shaft was hitting the piston when the decompressor was on, because it was adjusted wrong. So I'm going to show you how to adjust the decompressor correctly so you won't have that problem. And you don't need a feeler gauge for it. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Okay, don't know if you can see that okay. It looks okay on the camera screen. Here's the decompressor. So what I got to do is, to adjust it, you've got to turn the engine over till you got TDC. So as I can see, I can turn the engine over, I got compression. So I'm on the firing stroke, which is just what I want. And we've got that over, so we now flip the decompressor over towards the flywheel, like that. The engine's decompressed. So we've got to get a spanner. Now, it's 11mm will fit that nicely. You can use a proper size, but I haven't got them unfortunately on me. They're with the tractor. So if I pop that over like that, so that's all slackened off now. Now TDC, you've got to turn the engine over to TDC, or if you haven't got the flywheel on, the keyway is at the top. You want to screw this down. I'm trying to do this without moving the camera too much. You probably can't see very much, but there's a screw on the top there, being turned. Okay, that's gone tight now. Okay, that's tight, so obviously that's hitting the piston. Or maybe it's the bolt. Doesn't feel like the bolt, must be the piston. Yeah, that's hit the piston. Okay, now that's hit the piston. You want to now slacken it off half a turn. So you want to pull it back half a turn. I usually just do slightly over half a turn, just to be safe. As long as it still decompresses the engine. Then, once you got your screwdriver on there, see what I'm doing with the spanner? Hopefully you can. And that is, if I can actually do that, so we get makes it a bit quicker. You want to put that on there. It's like doing a tap it. See the decompressor move there. It's a bit of a fiddly job, can be, but because I've got the camera in the way, I can't quite do it all. Okay, make sure that's tight, like it is. It's a bit, as I said, it is a bit fiddly. And now that's that done, basically what you do then is you turn it over, turn the engine over to whole cycle, like that. As you can see there, we haven't got no rubbing or anything, no thing, can't see it twitching, so it's not hitting, there's no compression. And you double check, you pull it, take that off, and you find you got compression. There we go. So that there is how you adjust the decompressor on the engine. So unscrew that, turn the engine to TDC on the firing stroke is the important thing to do there. You can do that by watching the valves. Keyway is at the top or TDC on the flywheel. Then you slacken this off, screw this screw down till it touches the valve. Once it touches the valve, under half a turn or slightly over half a turn, maybe between half and 3/4 of a turn off, tighten that nut up, turn it over a couple of times, watch that to see if it's hitting. You'll know because it's slightly like rocks slightly. You just like rock ever so slightly when the thing hits it, piston hits the valve. And that happens then, what can happen is it might fracture the casting here, or bend it sometimes. Actually, I have known people when they flip the decompressor over, it actually bends the push rods for some reason. Don't ask me how, but it does. But I think that's probably because they're not adjusted right. But that's how we do that, and that's all adjusted right. So now, that's that job done. So we can put the cap on, like that. And so that's it. That's the decompressor done. That hole in the top is the engine breather, believe it or not. A little hole. So I hope that little bit helped you. And next we'll proceed on doing the fuel tank. Okay, we're now going to proceed on doing the fuel tank. So what we're going to do the fuel tank is, you put your line on. I left it a bit slack as you can see, but it's on there. There are fibre washers on 1, 2, 3, 4 fibre washers on there. That's what came in the decoat pack. So just make sure, keep it clean, wipe off any dirt because it's easier to do it now before it is when the engine's together. So we're going to start looking like an LD now, not as bare. Now I believe on the later LDs this pipe is steel. So if yours is not copper, don't worry. But this one's a copper pipe because this is a second year production LD1. Quite early. Because they started making them in 1954. And I've only seen one on eBay that was a 2 horsepower one. So as you can see, here it is. Now in the manual, if I just quickly grab the manual quickly for this engine. I'm sorry it's a bit higgledy-piggledy today. These are homemade videos, not scripted. Look here quickly. There we go. Look at the manual there. Note how the tank strap is the bolts at the bottom. So I'm going to try and do that here. You can try and put that at the bottom. So yeah, we'll put that at the bottom quickly and see how well it goes. Either that way or that way. We'll have a look. Wait a minute. Camera batteries are dying quickly. I'll see if I top those over quickly. Okay, well I've got the tank straps in position. I've taken that line off, but I worked out it's easier to take it off. That's no biggie. So what I've got here, I've got the tank straps on. Now you got the 2 bolts. And you've got to put these pieces of aluminium on now. See what shape they are? You can see that on the camera. We want the bigger bit goes towards the engine. So we want to, because I know some people might get confused with it. Okay. Now this is where it gets particularly fiddly. So there we go with that side, both the same. So I haven't had any major differences with them. You could do with an extra pair of hands for this sort of thing. Put that like that quickly, hold it there. Grab the fuel tank. Now, remember where the leak off pipe is? There. Right, we've got the leak off pipe. So what you're going to do is, you want to make sure, because my engine is an early one, it goes over that side. The later engines are over this side. As you remember from the previous videos, I did move it. So put that there, like that. So that goes on there. Right. Oh, one thing I have forgot. Take this off quickly. Oh. Take this off. One thing I've just remembered. Talk about leak off pipes. Oops, don't take up too much. You got your bit of pipe. They should all have this. It's just a U-shaped piece of copper pipe. I believe it's copper on all of them. And here we have the bit of pipe. There you go, nice bit of black pipe. This is fuel resistant pipe. fuel proof or whatever you want to call it. If you want to put that on there like that, make sure it's on there leak proofly. And then you want to cut it to a rough length to fit onto there. On later engines it says it comes out about there and into your tank, up and in. But on this engine it comes out there. Don't know if you can see that alright. So the leak off nozzles there. So what we're going to do is get a standing knife blade, and you just want to go and see what's best. It's a bit of a fiddly job, but I'm going to shoot about there. Will be enough for this one. So if I do that quickly. My bit of pipe in there. It's a bit of trial and error. I think you see that's a little bit long. So take it back out of the tank. Tank down again. And just keep trimming it if I find my knife again. There's my blade. Usually use a proper Stanley knife instead of what I'm doing. I'm being stupid. Just what I've got lying around for what I use for trimming gaskets. And then all you got to do is then put your bits of aluminium there like that. Make sure your piece of leak off pipe is in there correctly. So again, that's still too long. It's just a bit of playing around at the end of the day. Stupid. The original one of this pipe was a clear one and it went all hard. I should think, well, when I bought the engine anyway. Being this is oops. Piece of aluminium there, just falling down. The other piece is going to make a break for it as well. Yep. It's maybe a bit awkward to do, but you will get the rough idea eventually. So it's still a bit too long. Yeah, so you want to do a bit more. So just now we're getting close, it's just a little bit trimmed down. It's just a bit of guesswork really at the end of the day. So if I pop it on there again, here we go, get a piece of aluminium. This is the sort of job you could do with like 20 odd hands or 3 or 4 hands, but we don't have that luxury on me, so we just have to make do with what we got. Take that leak off pipe out again, like that. Put that there out of the way. Try not to scuff too much paint up. Tell you what, I have to put this tank on, it's kind of a hard job. It'll be here forever, so I will get back to you when the tank's on. Well, as you can see, I've got the fuel tank on the engine, and from this angle it looks like an LD, doesn't it? Well, I think it does anyway. Got a nice lovely exhaust pipe on it. An LD of its transfers, that's what I think it looks like. I think it's not looking too bad actually, from what I can think of. From what it started out like. Here's a quick pan around, at least what we're doing. Full manifold and everything, there's a tank tanks all on. That's the speed adjustment screw if anyone is wondering. Screw it out to make the engine go faster, screw it in, the engine goes slower, and there's a lock nut there to lock it off. What else have we got? Air filter. That's a new air filter because the old one had a rusted old top, but I want to put the old one back on it one day when I get a new top for it. And over this side there's a big hole where the flywheel goes. But everything else is looking mighty fine, if I do say so myself. And if we pan over here to the parts tray, there's not really a lot left in there. There's a ring for the fuel filter. Yep, 1, 2, 3 bolts there for the flywheel fan and everything. Spec tag, 2 screws for the spec tag, and these 3 big bolts are for the extension shaft there to put onto the put that on. So that's not be done until I put the engine on the onto the oh, I forgot its name now, onto the trolley. So I think this will be the last part in a very long time. So I'd like to say, if I think of anything else I will put it on, but at the moment all I can say is thanks for watching, and stay tuned for part 18, which should be something to do with the trolley, maybe trolley episode, we hope. And maybe even mounting the engine on the trolley, and maybe by part 19 we'll have a first fire up. Well, I have to put a fuel filter in as well, but I'll show that when I put the engine on the trolley. Probably will be the best thing to do. So thanks for watching, and also I'd like to say thanks to everyone who has commented. Maybe slow at replying, but I will reply to you eventually. So thanks for watching. Have a good evening.